that there were people who benefited from the grant of citizenship by Section 6A, whether Section 6A2 or 6A3. Now, what happens to those who were not granted the benefit of citizenship, but they are illegal immigrants, and they continue to remain in Indian territory without the grant of citizenship, and nothing was done about them at all?
No, that is post 71 entrants.
Actually, you know, Mr. Solicitor, there are two categories which 6A covers. One, people who came before 1166. Second, people who came between 1166 and 25,371. For those who came before 1166, there were two conditions. One, you must have come from the specified territory, namely that, you know, the specified territory means
Present Bangladesh.
Second, you must be of an Indian origin. Indian origin as defined in the provisions of 6A1D, namely both your parents or any of your grandparents must have been born in undivided India. That's the second. And third, that you have continued to be an ordinary resident of Assam since you came before 1966. So 6A2 contained these three provisions, right? 6A3 covers the period 1166 to 25,371. That incorporates all these three conditions, plus a fourth condition, namely the condition of detection. The requirement of detection was not imposed on those who came into India, into Assam prior to 1166. That was imposed for this group of people who came in between 1166 and 25 March 71. So the only difference between subsection 2 and subsection 3 is that subsection 3 imposes one more condition, namely the condition of being detected by the tribe.
So the people who came between 51 and 66 remained without any adjudication. They
remained without adjudication.
That's the section.
Elaborate further. This second category of person from 66 to 77, what the Act actually contemplates is that all of them should be made to go for the tribunal, or machinery should have been developed by the government to make sure all of them shall get.
Lordships are right. I cannot dispute that. I cannot dispute that.
It's missing.
I cannot.
That only triggered everything now.
In that sense, you have a larger group of people. What my brother is trying to point out is, I think,
other than 6A.
That you have a larger group of people who came from the specified territory. In that larger group, a smaller group of persons who got the benefit of 6A by actually becoming citizens.
Lord, that was a part of the settlement which resulted into, my lord, a legislative enactment. That's the position. But foreigner tribunals are, my lord, functioning. Maybe number of foreigner tribunals are required to be increased. My lord, the space requires to be increased, and for post 71 influx, my lord, the steps need to be taken. I'm not shying away from it.
Though the analogy is not exactly correct in this case, in Ramanohar Lohia, Chief Justice Hidayatullah gave the example of concentric circles. Concentric circles. You know, the bigger circle, the smaller circle.
Yes.
Now, in this case, the bigger circle, to use Justice Hidayatullah, Chief Justice Hidayatullah's analogy, the bigger concentric circle consists of people who came into India from Bangladesh between 66 to 71. The smaller concentric circle within that larger concentric circle is people who get the benefit of citizenship under 6A. The area between the larger and the smaller circle is of people who came in between 66 and 71, but never got the benefit of citizenship.
No, they would get 66 to 71. They would.
Everybody didn't get citizenship.
So they would, Malu.
No, everybody qualified to get citizenship, but everybody didn't get citizenship as a matter of fact. Because unless there was a detection order, you wouldn't get citizenship.
Yeah, correct. Well, the detection. Yeah, I understand the point.
Therefore, between that smaller circle and the bigger circle, there was a group of persons who had come, who were still in India, but never got citizenship.
Well, I'll add one more.
What happened to those people?
No, Lord, I'll just say, everyone who came between 66 to 71 will have to be given citizenship if declared to be foreigner by the tribunal. The problem is, if the tribunal takes a little longer decision, my lord, for declaration, or either way the tribunal decides whether you are a foreigner or you are not a foreigner, and there is a challenge to the High Court, to this court, remand, etc., my lord, then that period, my lord, they are not getting the citizenship because it has to be dependent upon a final adjudication that you are a foreigner.
Because the difference between subsection 2 and subsection 3 is, under subsection 2, Parliament decided that anybody who came before 1166 would become a citizen subject to fulfilling 3 conditions: Indian origin, specified territory, and ordinary residence.
Correct.
All right, once you satisfied it, there was a deemed conferment of citizenship. 3 does not do it for those who came in between 66 and 71. 3 says detection by a tribunal is necessary.
Correct.
Now, where there is a detection by the tribunal, those people would be conferred citizenship under 6A3. They get citizenship. What happens with those who never got the benefit? Because then their status
never got, my lord, may not be correct.
So tell us broadly.
Okay, can I, my lord, take your lordship the way
the figures,
6A I read?
The figures. How many people got the benefit of 6A2? How many people got the benefit of 6A3? And third, to complete the trajectory, how many people actually came into India between 1950 and 1971 from the specified territory?
Look, some figures are available.
This appears to be the problem. Now, even for those who have come before January 1966, how do you determine? Now, this adjudication by the tribunal declaring them a foreigner, this is again one job of the tribunal. See, now tribunal has got ample power to say this person has come and settled here before 1966. Therefore, then I am confirming that deeming provision.
No, they don't have that power.
There is no adjudication. My lord, the Chief Justice is right. There is no adjudication. It's confirmed by operation.
You have not done that exercise. There must be adjudication on that. Okay, everybody would claim, I have come before 1166. How do you determine this? Now, all of them are immigrants. And different periods, you have given a cutoff period. Now, unless there is a mechanism to deal with this, it creates total confusion. That's exactly what is happening. I would say that he has come before 1166, then he becomes a citizen.
Actually, conceivably, Mr. Solicitor, there may have been one, because there may have been one, you may be having the files and you may also guide us on that. People who came in between, we are now talking about the conferment of citizenship by an act of 1985, right? This all comes in 1985.
Correct.
Those who came in, say, between 1951 onwards, 51 to 66, the last of those immigrants had come in 19 years before the act was enacted. The first of those immigrants had come in 35 years before the act was enacted. So possibly, at that stage, Parliament felt that those who had come in that far back in terms of antiquity, somebody who came in 1951, to ask that person to prove XYZ was perhaps humanly impossible. Therefore, Parliament possibly made a classification that people who came in before 1966, because 66 is a very watershed moment. 66 is a watershed moment because the electoral roll is prepared in 66, containing both illegal immigrants as well as our...
Presuming that he was ordinarily residing there.
Therefore, they said after 66, you must demonstrate that, you are detected to be a foreigner. Before 66, Parliament made, really, we must put it at that level. It was a policy.
It was a legislative policy based on the
policy that before 66,
Assam Accord.
In 1985, to tell a person that you show us what were your documents in 1955 would be humanly impossible. 35 years later, who would have any documentation to show that he was in Bangladesh? Many of those people may have died. Their children may have been involved, or those people, their grandchildren may have been involved. So possibly this was a sort of we are trying to assess what was the reason for
possibly, my lord, because it's not, my lord,
That's why the distinction between two, because Before 66, possibly Parliament thought it's impossible to go into these facts.
Possibly, my lord. The person's name being included in the voters list was taken to be a prima facie evidence that he has been ordinarily residing in India. And, my lord, based upon which Assam Accord, my lord, was made. That all right, 51 to 66, since your names are there, don't give any proof, you will be conferred with citizenship. But 66 onwards, you will have to establish that you came from Bangladesh and you are entitled to the citizenship, for which, my lord, 3 conditions are laid down. And dates are, my lord, taken from the Assam Accord, and the relevance of the date, my lord, I'll just point out. My lord, first is, my lord, the date of 66, 1st of January 66. My lord, the reason is, on that day, the electoral roll for the election of 67 was published. So whoever is there in the electoral roll was possibly presumed to be ordinarily residing and must have come prior to 66.